Dear Thay, dear Sangha, welcome to session 3 in our short journey in what we can discover about our inner Sangha, our inner community, to aid us in our practice. So today we are going to spend a few moments talking about what communications have we received from our inner Sangha recently. How has our inner Sangha been going through change as our circumstances and our practice has changed? Maybe and maybe not, but it's important to review our inner life in this way. I kind of do it every year in the month of my birth, January. I take a look back at the past year and ask myself many things, but one of the things I ask myself is how has my inner life changed? How has my inner dialogue with my memories and messages that I have received from the land ancestors within me, from the blood ancestors within me, from the spiritual ancestors within me, and from the society in which I am living and having my being. This whole series is a practice of selective watering. As Thay has taught us over and over again, the quality of the seeds in our storehouse of consciousness determines the quality of our life experience within and without. And so we want to not ignore the fact that we have community inside of us. Our families are inside of us. Our mother, our fathers, our cousins, our aunts and uncles are inside of us. Our neighborhoods or villages that we grew up in are inside of us. Our school systems, our education, the societies we have lived in war and in peace, all are inside of us. And so to be tender in our recognition and naming of just a few of the energies of people that are inside of us is a very important practice, but it's important to be tender as we do it with ourselves. First session was overview. Second session was on naming and recognizing. And I hope you continue to add to the list of who you might name and who you might recognize as we go through this entire journey. Today is about discovering our communication. Another way of saying that in more familiar terms might be what transmissions have we received from these members of our inner community? Wholesome transmissions, inspiring communications, precious memories that aid us in our practice of nourishing the good within us. Thay, in my view, had a remarkable inner community. I was just reflecting on my own experience of this in conversations over the years I've had with him in different parts of the world, where we and I had the good fortune to be together with the Sangha and with Thay. I remember that he often talked about Martin Luther King as a friend, and certainly Martin Luther King was a part of Thay's inner community. Um, when I first had a conversation with Thay many years ago about beginning a people of color retreat in the Plum Village tradition, he asked me, he said, of course, and then he asked me, did I know about Dr. Ambedkar from India, who was an untouchable? And I did know about Dr. Ambedkar because I lived for 2 years in India and worked in villages quite near in the state of Maharashtra, where he lived and worked and transmitted the precepts to the untouchable community uh, in spite of the resistance from the established Buddhist community of the time. And so again, Dr. Ambedkar is a part of Thay's inner community. But so is the hermit in the well, a powerful part of Thay's inner community. And I could go on. And so as I speak again, be thinking about your own inner community, your hermit in the well, your Martin Luther King. This is key for me. I've already mentioned my mother, but I want to mention also my first influential Christian teacher, Joe Matthews, Dr. Joseph Wesley Matthews, Methodist minister and leader of a religious community I was a part of for over 20 years. And his messages for me, which keep reoccurring, is to manifest three kinds of love of witnessing to the good, to the true, and the beautiful, and what's possible for us in our healing and transformational journey as self and society and planet. Pay attention to your messages. That's just one of his many for me that still resound, still resonate in my memory capsules, in my positive memory capsules, in my motivating memory capsules. Of course, Thay is there. Um, I have a whole list of members, so to speak, of my inner community of people. Now, in our inner life, we have multiple kinds of resources. People and memories of people are just one. But it's important to remember in the earliest days of the Buddha tradition, remembering the Buddha was a very important practice. And so we want to use our memory skillfully of those who have contributed positively to our growth and development as a practitioner. One other story about Thay that I know was a strong part of his internal community was his story of seeing his first picture of the Buddha being calm on a magazine cover and how that catalyzed his aspiration to be that peaceful, to be that calm. What has done this for you? Who has done this for you? So I'm talking specifically about people, but they're all as a resource of community. But there are also places that are resources. There are also activities that resource us, that sustain us, that nurture our goodness, water our positive natures. And there's also memories. So we're combining, in this case, memories and people. So since we're not live and together and this is recorded, I'm going to outline what the steps are I use. And you can use these steps in a process for yourself, or you can invent your own steps. But what's important is to understand what you received and how what you received from your inner community has influenced you. I know my grandmother, who's in my inner community all the time, has something to say. She did not, how to put this, she did not appreciate theology that didn't make sense. And so she and I, when I was with her at our big Baptist church, we'd have a guest minister every now and then. We'd be there for 10, 15 minutes in the sermon. And she'd say, okay, we can leave now. He's an idiot. and, and so what that does in how that has impacted me is to be a critical thinker at the same time to keep my mind open. So you want to now jot down any key messages. If you've added some more members to your inner community list, how has your list changed in the last year? Our external situations and conditions always stimulate our body mind system to adapt and to change. And so too with our inner life. It's a flow, it's not permanent in the sense of being some kind of entity. Um, when did any person on your list most recently arise in your mind, spontaneously coming to your consciousness? And what was their message? What did they communicate to you? What did they help you remember? What advice did they have? What caution may they have offered in our own embodiment of the ethics of the way? So, our inner conversations are profound influences on our external behavior. When the children who were involved in one of the tragedies of a school shooting that occurred in the US, I won't mention the location, but they were interviewed later after they were stopped from their killing spree. And the question was, how did this happen? And they said, well, it came out, I was thinking about it. I had a conversation with myself, and I told my friends the conversation I had with myself. They had a similar conversation, and we had a conversation together and decided to do it. So our conversations matter within ourselves and between ourselves. And the more skillful we can become at recognizing the messages, the imprints that we receive from the external world and know how to practice with them so they don't increase our suffering, but can lead us more clearly in the path of liberation, is why we practice continuously. So review your list, add any new members that have appeared. Um, One of mine, just to mention this one, is the Greenwood community here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, is now in my part of my inner community awareness because of its history and because I live nearby. And I know the history of what's happened there. And that both inspires my compassion and my action. So, what is that in society for you? Not just an individual inspiration. We can have social inspirations, which is the point of engaged Buddhism and applied Buddhism. So, take a look at your list. Write a key word by 4 or 5 people indicating the messages you received or advice they often give, the communication often. Another one from my grandmother's messages is some simple one I ask myself every day or comes up every day. Are you being good? it's, uh, it's simple, but that's just stayed with me since my childhood. Are you being a good person? That nourishes every fiber of my being. And so I'm asking you to reflect here on not only the person you've identified, but what has been their impact on you, reflected in the messages or communications you've received, or reminders or advice that has come up in your storehouse into your mind consciousness space. Another message important to me, Martin Luther King is a part of my internal community. And his constant message I remember, and there are many, but recently it's been, I'm going to stay with love because hate is too hard to bear. It's important to remember that in these times we are in the world, in our communities, in our cities, in our villages. Thank you.